Good morning. That was a millennial pause for you. Okay, so it's been a while since I made a video. And for a while, I did not think I would be making videos anymore. I thought the video era was over. But now it is, I believe today is season 6, episode 1, which makes no sense to you right now. But that's just for me because I just ended season 5 a couple days ago. It's very uh, not an exciting finale, but a nice one, a good one. So listen, things have been happening off screen. You understand? And I really did not foresee myself making videos in the future, especially about this. I just, um, but God is funny like that. And He has a way about Himself. And, He has you thinking it's going to be like this, going to be like that. And then He comes back around. He's like, we're using it all. We're using it all. So I don't know how He wants to, if He wants us to go out to the masses. I don't know if this is the jump off. I don't know. I'm just going to go with the flow and be obedient and speak from my heart. And this part, you're like, what is she talking about? Just let me talk so that I can get to a place that makes sense here. So I just rewatched my testimony video from April. And I suppose that is my third testimony video. The part 1 and part 2 that I started, like basically when I started this channel, is up, and then part 3 is up. And I remember, and I saw myself say, I don't know if I'm going to leave this up. I don't know what this is for. I don't know if I don't even really want to tell you people about this, but I feel like I should. I feel like I need to commemorate. And that was a prudent decision, of course. Thank you, Lord. Because I do believe that God is wanting me to share what has been happening to me over the past 4 months. And since I recorded that, because that was day 1 of a sort. It was, just like I'm saying, this is season 6. There have been seasons in my life. And so that particular thing that I shared with you, we call that, around here, we call that episode 1, season 1. You understand? And since then, I have been recording privately. As you can tell, probably, I am one for documentation. I like to document things. I was keeping journals, before, in my lovely teens and 20s, I kept journals. I got about a dozen of them. And then when things started to progress, I started keeping audio things, those are all gone. Those are just various computers I had over the years. I used to do that a lot. There was really nothing to talk about except for, the boy I was crushing on, and, the one time he said a word to me, and, an hour-long thing about the lead up to that. So that was kind of the vibe. And then, MySpace, here come the blogs, you know what I'm saying? Then I had my own internet blog thing that I was keeping, my own little free website. Then I don't know what was after that. There's something after that. Something really obvious that I'm not thinking about. Facebook, not really. I don't know. The point was, I likes to keep records. I likes to be, I'm verbal. I'm a writer. So that's what I was doing. That's always what I like to do. So, you can probably tell, like, there is some literacy, something that comes through in these videos. I'm not really like super well versed. I'm not necessarily like the most comfortable in front of a camera, but I know how to convey, and that is from decades of keeping records. It's just something I like to do. So, for the past 4 months, I have been on a journey and keeping a private record of that to myself. And lately, that private record has moved to a public space, and it looks like now it's moving to an even more public space, which seems like the necessary next step. At first, it seemed like, yeah, whatever, and now it just seems like. And then I woke up this morning, and it just seemed very obvious, and very much like, duh, this is what you need to do. And so, that was the prompting that I needed to get up and start this. So I think God wants me to start at the beginning. I think I want to start at the beginning and take you all the way through, because you're not going to, understand. And I don't know if you understanding is even the point. I can't even say I no longer have a dog in the fight as far as like how anything is supposed to go. I'm just going to do it. So it's funny, like I'm watching myself through my camera. I can see a change in myself. It's really interesting, actually. Let me just cut to the end for a second. Let's do like a Tarantino type thing where we mess with the actual flow and the actual thing of let's start with the end. Yeah, so God completely freed your girl. She's completely free. She's free. And he used drugs to do that. So that's where I'm at. Let's rewind to the beginning. So that testimony video, testimony number 3. I don't need to catch you up. Shouldn't need to catch you up. If you want to go back and watch that, watch that. I got too high for the final time, at least the final time where the before picture was God was nowhere around. And that's really actually not true, because that's kind of the funny thing, is that I didn't notice that God was around that whole time, and I didn't notice it because, you're not taught to notice it. If you're doing something wrong, it's sin, right? Well, the thing about me and my drug history, which, let's don't get too excited. I'm not like a drug addict or anything like that, and I'm certainly not using to the level that other people use. Like, I'm using legal means to do what I'm telling you to do. I think that's just because I'm a lightweight. It's not. I don't think it has anything to do with like. I'm just talking. This is my testimony. Okay. So speaking for myself, I'm a lightweight. I don't need a lot. I just need a half. Just whatever you got, cut it in half, give it to me. If it's too good, give me a quarter. You know what I'm saying? That's all I need. Well, I think the reason why this particular journey for me is so unique is because of the way that I started the drug journey, which is in both my testimony, or all 3 of my testimony videos. Not all 3, the first one. This drug thing started for me. It did not start for me in, my friend's basement when I was 16 years old. It didn't start for me when I was, at a party and somebody said, hey, take a hit of this. This didn't slip in, and it wasn't something done in a moment of temptation, in a moment of peer pressure. I think really, it's really important that people understand, like, the things that make up our vices and our sins and all that stuff, it's not the thing itself. And we have, especially Christians, but particularly people who just in general want to get to the bottom of things, we've circled around this, circled around this, and circled around this. And I think the reason why we circle is because each group has half of the story. So you got people who are religious or Christian or whatever, putting myself in that camp, and they have a particular knowledge about something, but then they have like a perception, they have things that they think about it. Then you have these people who are not churched at all and they have another perception about it. I always, it's really funny because I always think about this thing that happened when I was like 9 years old or 10 years old. I was at a friend's house and it was Saturday morning and we were going to make breakfast. Neither one of us, I guess, were skilled in making breakfast, but that's what we decided to do. And so we had a pancake box. We were going to make pancakes. There's a recipe on the back. I don't know why we didn't see the recipe. Like, I don't know what about the recipe on the back did not say specifically that there needed to be eggs involved in the pancakes. But we were both confused. Maybe I just trusted them to read the box. I don't know. I just remember there was a dispute about eggs being in the pancakes. And two of my friends were like, let's make the pancakes no eggs. And I was like, no, you definitely need eggs, right? So they were like, okay, well, you make your batch and we'll make our batch. And I was like, okay. So they put no eggs in theirs. I put 4 in mine. I put 4 in mine because I'm 9 or 10 or whatever. So their batch comes out, it's like a cartoon. It's like this dry, inedible mess. Well, I'm like, haha, I knew I was right. Well, then my thing comes out and it's a sponge. It's sponge cake. It's okay. But what really would have clinched it, what I really would have loved if I would have just put 2 eggs in it, and then I would have been right. And it literally like bothers me to this day, to the point where every time I see something like that, I'm just like, oh, why is it always either nothing or 4 eggs? Like, I should have just said 2 and then I would have been right. And then people would trust me and listen to me, right? But then it just looks like, oh, we're both wrong. So that's really what's going on, I think, with this and many other issues in life. One group is putting no eggs, the other group is putting 4, right? And neither one of us is getting a beautiful result because we're not actually going to God. We're not actually going to God. We're guessing. I don't know why the recipe wasn't like available to our eyes, but it wasn't. And in this case, the recipe is not in the Bible. You have to go to God. You can't just rely on the Bible because there's stuff in the Bible that is not understandable to you on purpose, so that you have to go to God to get the information. But you don't go to God to get the information. You go to someone trusted to get the information. You go to a scholar to get the information. You go to a PhD educated person to get the information. You go to everyone but God, and you trust they must know God. They're going to give you the information. Thus, the world we have today. So that's a little bit of where we're going to end up. Let's start from the beginning. So what God did basically with me that I did not know he was doing at the time of recording that testimony was he was going to use me as the guinea pig. He said, you're going to be the guinea pig. You have studied the word your entire life. You care about the word. You love my word. You love me. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to strip you of everything that you think you know, and then you're going to follow me like the books say to do. It's going to be super weird, but you can handle it because I made you to handle it. It's going to be super not what anybody would ever tell you to do, but you're smart. You can handle it. So that's what he did. So basically, Um, he showed me the steps of actual conversion. I became a sinner. I started using drugs, but I wasn't using the drugs because I needed to get high. I was using the drugs because every time I used drugs, God showed up. And if you listen to me the testimony that I left, I said that he told me the next time you come out here, you're going to run into me. He said, if you ever get high again, you're coming straight back to me. And what did I say in the video? I said, oh, well, I knew that he was telling me that because, he knew my attributes. He trusted me. And all of that was true. And all of that was true. But what you don't know is that probably about 2 weeks after that, uh, I was back out there looking for the Lord. Okay. And that's true because I got no interest in drugs. I had it in the beginning. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Okay. So my journey with drugs started at the dentist office, and that is true. A lot of people like to dispute it. A lot of people who know me personally, there's a lot of blame games going on because the people in my personal life who are, the closest to this and didn't understand it in the beginning, some of them still don't, were like, she did it, he did it, blah, blah, blah. It's like, listen, everyone's wrong. God did it, and he started at the dentist office. And here's what I mean. First of all, we got this thing on our brains that what the dentist office is giving you ain't drugs. It's drugs, but it's like, but these are the good ones. Drugs are drugs are drugs are drugs. The anesthesia that I got at the dentist office, here's how high I got at the dentist office. When I'm talking about how I got too high the first time, then I got too high the second time, then I got too high the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time. And the fifth time that I got too high, is when I had that experience with God, which is in the third one. Well, the fourth time before that, when I was laying in bed and I thought I was going to turn into a cartoon, by the end of it, I was sitting in my bed. I was like, listen, it's going to be fine. Here's what I consoled myself with. This is about what you had when you went to the dentist. You've done this before. It's fine. That's how high I got at the dentist. It was the fourth highest. It was equivalent of the fourth highest time that I got just vaping. That's how high I got at the dentist. I didn't know that at the time. I'm thinking the way everybody else is thinking. I'm thinking, okay, this is, the dentist office, legitimate drug use, whatever, it's fine. No shame, no guilt, no peer pressure, none of that stuff. This matters because it ain't just the drugs. I won't say it ain't the drugs because we won't start this episode off saying that. But it ain't just the drugs. It's drugs plus what? This. It's drugs plus this. So if you start out, you're doing the first time you do drugs is at a party. The first time you do drugs is because somebody gave it to you and you wanted to be liked. The first time you did drugs is because whatever, you wanted to escape and you heard this is a good way to do it. That goes into how you relate to these things. This is spiritual stuff, right? So I didn't have any of that baggage going into it. And then, but I did know, and I did have this, I always had this sort of underlying fear, really, of anything that sort of takes you out of control. I don't know if I have a genuine history somewhere in the family line of drug use. I mean, it's possible. I could tell you a story or two of some whatever person. If I just was afraid of that, was that like a natural instinctual thing in here, or if it was just me just being a wise person and wanting to stay away from anything like that. So as I could feel it kicking in, who am I talking to? God. I'm like, Lord, okay, here we go. Come get me. And I started to feel myself get high. So I'm getting high at the dentist office. Yeah, I can, if I open my eyes, it's like basically it kind of goes away almost. It's not this sort of inebriate, but high as high. And I got up there, and I'm pretty sure I say this in my testimony, that me and God are up there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this whole thing is about you and me. And he kind of laughs. He's like, you found me out. Like, I remember that. And it was so like, it was like one of the most, it was just easy. It was just easy and beautiful. And it took away my fear of doing drugs to the point where now if I'm offered drugs again, I'm probably going to take some, because I'm just like, oh, I'll try it. Before that, no, absolutely not. No, thanks. I'm good. No, no, no. Right? So I go to the dentist's office. The very first experience I have is with God. Cut to a little bit later. Then I'm giving my testimony again about how God intervenes. I'm thinking it's one thing. I'm thinking like, oh, God wants me to repent. He's going to, whatever, he's trying to punish me. Nope, turns out he wants to give me a fantastic experience. Okay. At this point, I'm looking around and I'm going, is anybody else like seeing God when they get like, I feel like I would have heard about this. I feel like I would have heard about this from somebody. Like, I know that, it's probably a little strange because it's like, it's not something that people want to highlight. But I'm just like, man, I just feel like I would have heard about this by now if this was something. And so, yeah, by number 3, and he's showing up in his, like, I wouldn't even say fullness, but at the time, for me, that was like everything. And I still don't think that I have been as high as I was that day. I've gotten close, but never. But I still have not. It's like every time I think, it's like, yeah, I think you were about, and then I think about it, I'm like, yeah, no, girl, you were completely blasted. So that was a turning point, obviously. So basically, I say all that to say, I was dodging the context clues of this because of my understanding that everyone has of this thing. Maybe at most you think God made plants and plants do this, and you're whatever, plants or whatever. Maybe you say, you're a Christian and you say the Bible says be sober, be vigilant, blah blah blah. It's wrong. It's not. Whatever. It's like, even if you want to try and justify it, you can't. Then maybe you say, okay, well, everything in moderation. Or maybe you had a history of drug use, you're never going back to, okay. All of these factor into how you're thinking about what you think is what it is what, and God literally told you that. But, and he's not going to tell you anything different if you never talk to him. He told me when I got high, everyone else was just getting high and doing whatever they do, playing video games, whatever, vegging out. I don't know what you do. Laugh, have fun, giggle, whatever. Okay. I'm having, in just the little limited use that I have, and it's never really escalated. Like I said, I haven't gone past the legal kind. Okay. Unless, I don't know, maybe I didn't, but everything that I've done so far has been legal. Okay, well, the weed wasn't. You know what I'm talking about. So finally, he gets my attention. I'm high enough to where he is getting my attention. And I'm going to have to leak this out in bits because y'all, that record that I left, the last host testimony that I left, was sanitized. Because when I got out there, and this is the beauty of it. This is like the beauty of it that I really didn't feel like I could share with anybody. I really just want to get up like a skeleton testimony because I just felt like I had to. I was like, nobody's going to believe this. I don't even know. Like, I knew I believed it, but I was like, no one's going to believe this and I don't care. So the beauty of this that I wasn't able to really share is that experience was so unhinged as far as like beyond the bounds of what any person, especially a Christian, would think that God is capable of. And it was in the confines of drugs. So you could just kind of sit with it. It would be like it's like if you took a psychedelic and you're sitting in your couch and a burglar goes around into your thing, your whatever, and comes into your door, and and they take it off, and it's your third grade teacher. You can't refute that. You took drugs. You sit through this, okay? This is like you don't get to just say like, oh, well, this isn't real or whatever. It's like even if you say this isn't real, you still have to you have to confront what's happening because you can see, probably maybe even smell. It's happening though to you. Your third grade teacher just came in and burgled you, and now she's cussing you out, saying you'll never be anything. It doesn't matter that that it's not real. It's happening. You're going to respond. You're going to cry. You know what I'm saying? So for God to be able to use that medium to come in and be someone I could never, ever, ever, like, I won't say I never, ever, ever. It took me about 3 seconds to go, oh, you're God. Oh, this is so funny and hilarious that you did this way. I knew it was him immediately because he had prepared me my whole life to deal with that. So let me just give you a little bit of what that testimony actually, because I definitely remember the transition. I remember the transition between this not being my life and this being my life. So when I'm in the bed and I say all that stuff, obviously I'm doing this, I think I'm trying to get to you, so I'm trying to get up there. And by the way, upon reflection, I'm realizing, because I'm going, okay, God keeps showing up in my experiences. I'm not hearing it in anybody else's. But then in this particular one, he showed up. What's different? And I realized the very first one at the dentist's office, I invited him. I was like, oh, I was like, God, whatever. He came. He was like, what's up? Whatever, The second time that when I got to the other times, I was like, oh, I'm getting high. Like, don't look at me. I'm getting high. Okay, whatever. Even though sometimes I would watch testimony videos while I was high. Sometimes I'd watch hell testimony videos while I was high. Like, oh my God, right? Sometimes I would look up sermons and I would be thinking about what he was saying, and I'm like, oh, and it would be like so revelatory. Okay, but I wasn't inviting God himself. I was just doing those things. Sometimes I would pray, like when I said, God, give me a revelation of your love, that I was high when I said that. Sometimes I'd be like, God, why can't I stop doing this? And he would say, it's because such and such and such. He would talk to me, but I did not invite him. This is very important, you guys. I did not invite him to come and partake. But the second time that I got too high, it was like if I got high enough to where I had to involve him, he came. Okay? Then after that, if I fell off the wagon, I was in shame. I did not invite him. Right? Come to the fifth time. Here we go again. I'm too high not to involve him. I know that that's what I need to do. But I didn't involve him. But what I said, listen to what I said, because I didn't go, oh, Lord, forgive me. I didn't say, like, oh, like, Lord, don't let the demons get me. I wasn't saying anything like that. I wasn't coming to him talking about, I'm sorry, reinstate me. I said, clearly I'm trying to get up there. I'm coming up there. And when he tells me all the time, he's like, you actually, what you did, low-key, is invite yourself. You invited yourself. You were just like, I'm coming over. Click. He was like, oh, shit, I got to get ready. She's coming. So from that point on, And then he told me, if you ever come here again, you're going to run into me. So from that point on, I never did not have an experience with God while on drugs. So guess what I've been doing for 4 months? Vibing with God. Vibing with God. Yes, I'm telling you that I have been vibing with God on the drugs. On the drugs. He hasn't explained to me yet where in the spirit realm, what's going on. Partly because I haven't asked him. I low key don't care. I get the gist. If he wants to explain it to me, which I feel like he will. Um, yeah, y'all are not inviting him. That's why drugs are bad for you. And I know that sounds crazy and ridiculous, and I just sound like a crazy person, which is why a bitch is just going to keep this to herself forever and just vibe with God, because I love God. You see all those videos I got up? I can talk about God for an hour every day, and it will be something new. Don't test me. It's not refutable. So that's your proof. That's number one. So guess what we do? I take half of whatever, sometimes a quarter. I open up my Bible and we vibe. We vibe together. And it is wonderful. It's wonderful. It's changed my life. And it didn't start out that way. It started out incredibly tentative because of what I knew, what I thought that I knew. And I did not know he was taking me on a journey when I started. I just thought, okay, I don't think that I can stay away. After 2 weeks, I was like, I don't know what he means. Like, I'm thinking when he says, if you ever end up here again, I'm thinking the next time I fall off the wagon in months or, whatever. I'm not thinking that he is thinking a daily regimen or a regular routine regimen of anything. That can't possibly be true or real, right? That's, to me, it was like, well, that's too good to be true anyways, and that doesn't make any sense. I'm thinking about anybody who's ever been on drugs, and I'm thinking I'm going to be one of those people if I stay down this road. So the journey that I documented and recorded was a private one for the purposes of research, and that's not a lie. Because I'm 42 years old, and if I want to be a drug addict right now, like it doesn't make any sense. And also, like, why would I need to hide that? I would just be like, listen, I'm doing this for the next half of my life. I'm a drug addict. Sorry. Like, and I didn't do any of that. I didn't want that. I did not want that at my core. I wanted to, and I definitely wasn't entertaining that at first. It was like, yeah, no, I'm miles away from that, but it is a danger. My main thing was, is this actually God? Because why would God tell you to do something that could make you into an addict, right? But it was like, at the same time, I had to keep going to find out. I had to find out. And he knew that about me. He knew that about me, that I had to find out. So let me go back again. See, we're going out of order. So that first experience, when I'm in the bed and I said, clearly I want to be up there, I'm coming up there. There was probably about a 30 minute time between me saying that and then what actually happened. When he actually spoke to me, is what I said in the video. Then he spoke to me. Well, when you first get high, it hasn't kicked in yet. If it's kicking in when you get high, you are in trouble. And that's where I was at. So I said that right at the beginning because I was gone immediately. So I'm laying in the bed. I assume it's probably about 20 to 30 minutes passes, right? And anybody who's gotten high before probably knows there's like there's that first kick in, boom. And then there's might be a second one, a third one. If it's really good, there might be a fourth one. Okay. So around that, I think it was probably about the second or third, because I remember I was in the bed, I was holding on. I was holding on. I remembered what I said, but I was just like, I'm not expecting anything except for just to be high and to get through it, right? So around maybe the second or third time we're supposed to kick in. Actually, no, that's not true. I was really zooted. It was probably it was probably the first. Dude, because then we did a bunch of stuff after that. So it was probably the first. And that's when I hear the answer. And it's like, it was like the answer was coming towards me like this. It's like when it's like if you saw a light in the distance, and the light is little and it's gentle, and it's like, oh, light coming towards me. And then it's getting brighter. It's getting brighter. It's a train. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it was like. It was like the light started coming to me, and it was like, you're meant to be up here. Like, you're meant to do this. You're here because I want you to be here. And then it's like, you think I don't know you want to be here? Then it's, you think I don't know how bad you want to be with me? I was like, pardon me? Sir? He says, you think I don't know, I don't know how bad you want to be with me? I was like, oh shit, I'm really high. But like, I can't refute what's going on. It's just happening, right? So then I'm like, well, you're not thinking what I'm thinking. Like when you say that. Like, and that's real, like literally, I just couldn't help but say that, because that is true. Because that has always been my desire, is to have this sort of romantic relationship with God. I knew that, but I didn't act on that. I didn't because it's not possible, right? He is throwing my book catalog back in my face. And he's just showing it all to me. There was a short story that I wrote in college where, I mean, all of this is just like, if God was like a real person, people would be like, this is embarrassing, sis, that you did this. I wrote this short story in college about a girl. The story's called Vesta. And it was short, like probably not even 3,500 words, or maybe, I don't know, maybe about that. Where God finds her and marries her, or, finds his wife, gets her, and then destroys the rest of the world, bitch. That was the story. The end. I actually submitted that thing. They were like, we don't want this. What is this? My thesis, my master's thesis, was a creative thesis that was about God coming down to a town in, the 1700s or whatever. I don't remember the time right now. It was a historical fiction. It was a whole thing. Coming down to a town. Nobody recognized him except for this one little girl. And then he left, and she kept writing him letters. Like, it was shameless. And he said, I'm going to come back and get you. And then he did. And then she was in the hospital. She was in a coma. And everybody who came near the hospital, like, shameless. I forgot all this. And I didn't think it was anything except for just me trying to be creative. He's throwing that back in my face. He's like, yeah, I made that. You don't think I made that? Get your ass up here. That's what he said to me, people. That's what he said to me, people. He said, get your ass up here. And I start going. It was like timed exactly to where you start to go up. He said, get your ass up here. Then he said, then I'm getting high. I'm like, oh, he's like, yeah, get up here. Get the fuck up here. Get up. Bruh. Life changing, okay? There's some other shit that happened after that. that I will probably tell you about because it rules my life. It is my favorite moment. Even now, it is my favorite moment that has ever happened in the history of moments. It was a perfect moment for me. It was perfect. Flawless execution. Like, I have no notes. He did it. He did the thing. He showed himself to me in a way that was like you didn't know this about me, or you didn't know this, but you have always known this. Like, this is our relationship. It's already been planned. You already know that. It was like all happening at once, right? So our relationship is so it's zany, it's so familiar. It's um every protagonist I've ever written is him. And I knew that, but it was just like I didn't think it was like I didn't think it was like literal. It's literal. Like, he is those men for me. Like, I don't know. I didn't know that was what was happening, but that is what was happening. But like, that was also his way of trapping me. He's like, you can't get out of this information. Here is the proof. Even the way that those books began, like, I don't know, y'all probably don't know that I'm an author or whatever. I've mentioned it once or twice that I'm a romance author, blah, blah, blah. Or I haven't written a book in a couple of years. I guess I am still. But yeah, when that came to me, when the impetus to write came to me, that was God. He said, you should really write. This was 2017. He's like, you should really write, because the way that you see things and insight. And he just started like encouraging me out of nowhere. Like, I've never heard him that clearly, you know, that for that long, because he was talking, and to the point where I was watching something, like I heard the voice, and it sounded like the still small voice I recognized, but I was like zoning out a little bit because I was watching something, and it got louder in my head. Like, I remember that. I was like, whoa, he's really trying to talk to me. And I remember being like, well, Lord, I'm really touched that you would say that. But here's the thing, though. I hate writing. So if you want me to write, you're going to have to do that whole entire thing, because I hate writing and I don't want to do it. So you're going to have to do that. Guess what happened that weekend, 3 to 5 days later? Like a FedEx package, which I had already established. I think I even probably left this as a testimony. I had seen that pattern as far as when he answered my prayers. 3 to 5 days later. First, it started out as a germination of an idea. Guess what? I had to record that. I had to make a voice note. By that weekend, I was stuck to a chair in front of my computer, throwing Cheetos on the ground for the children, while I wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. 12,000 words in a weekend. I hated writing. I always have. Like, when I was in school, I loved it because I was, for an assignment. There was there was a reason to do it. Writing on my own was like anathema. 12,000 words. I still haven't, I've written like a dozen books. I've never cleared 12,000 words in a weekend before. It was a deluge, and it was romance. That was my first test. I didn't know, because when I wrote it, I was like, Lord, this is like smut. And he was like, it was very literary. It was very English professory. He said, don't worry about that right now. Just write. And write is what I did. So I kept going. I kept going. That was my first test. I didn't realize that. It was a test of, will you trust this relationship that we have? I didn't have any choice but to do what I felt like, to go in the direction I felt like he was taking me into. It never changed. It never went to a more appropriate direction. And it was like feeding me. It was in me. I didn't, it was like not hard. So shout out to everybody who around me who was supportive of that, because it was freaking weird. Oh, my entire circle was church people, and I was writing smut, and I was just like, whatever, sex is beautiful, isn't that what we all say? So that's what I did. I did that for a couple of years, and I vacillated on that because I was just so, I was like, maybe I should take these all down. Maybe I should stop. I literally retired, a couple of years ago. I was like, I don't remember what I said. It might have been even personal convictions or whatever, because at the time, you see me, I was rapture ready, sitting in a corner waiting for the rapture. And there's nothing wrong with that. Shout out to the end times people. I love you. And it's not even that they're freaking wrong, but, I still consider myself an end times person. But for me, it was like, there's nothing left to do here. What's there to do here? Everybody, no one cares. Let's just wrap this up. I was ready to wrap it up. And I did not want anything disqualifying me in this rapture. And it was really more that the books took up so much time to do, and I just didn't feel like I could focus on them anymore. But I was still vacillating. I was like, I don't know if this is really what God wants me to do or not. And it was funny because this year, I took him down for a couple of months, and then I found out that they had started doing audiobooks using AI. And I was like, man, I would sure love to have an audiobook. That would be so cool. Even though most people hate the AI because it doesn't read, it doesn't read very well, not as well as if you hired somebody, blah, blah, blah. But for me, that was a great solution, because I was like, okay, I can't picture making someone read these words. It would be a lot easier if a computer did it, whatever. And I thought I got some pretty good, performances out of the AI, but then they changed it, and now it just sounds ridiculous, and they all suck. But there's a couple that are still good, but it doesn't matter. But the point is, I was feverishly got back into the AI stuff. And so I was like, God, should I leave the books up or should I take them down? And he didn't, this was before April. This was a couple of months before April. And he just said, so there was a filter on him. And this is, I think we all have this. There's a filter on him that we put on him because we have to. I mean, if you're going to start this relationship with God, and, mine started the very first time I heard anyone, a lot of people talk about those Jesus calling books and they say that they're terrible. Well, I remember when one of our pastor's wives got up and just shared how she would have these conversations with God. He would talk back to her. And I just thought that was the most amazing thing. I was like, why aren't you the pastor? I was like, that's amazing. I was probably 17 or something. So, I started doing that, but I didn't start doing that until I was in my 20s. And God recently, very recently, just reminded me of all of that. Because I had maybe about, I lost a few through different laptops or whatever. I think one of my laptops got stolen, but I had about a year's worth, maybe 1.5 years worth of stuff still on there when were having these conversations. And he recently reminded me of that. And one of the conversations that we had was about kind of this, because as I started talking to him, and I was trying to do this kind of romantic thing with him. And I was trying to put on music and all this stuff. And eventually I gave it up because it was too weird. I couldn't it was the same problem I had with all this, which was I can worship God. It's okay, let's do the quiet time. I'll worship God. I'll tell you how much I love you. Here's how I feel about you. Then he's got to do it back. Oh, that was too much. I couldn't deal. I was like, I don't have the grit for that. So, and I think all of us have this thing where it's a very one sided. We feel like we have to worship God and then he accepts it and just says thanks or whatever. Like him saying stuff back to us. Like, at least for me, my particular problems that I've had in my life being, avoidant. We've talked about that. And, just reciprocity in general. And to think like God would give me that in whatever measure back was just like not something that I could. So it was like not, without that, it's not fun. It's like, you fizzle out after a while. So it was like, I felt like God was trying to engage me on this level. But that weirded me out so bad. I was like, I don't have the foundation to do this. So literally, this was on the 22nd, or no, it's the 21st of September. I went back to those old, he was like, go back through your old stuff. And I kept remembering forgetting. And finally I did it on the 21st. And I went, because it's on Google, if you have Google Drive, or if you have whenever you had your Gmail, my Gmail's like 20 years old, you know what I'm saying? So I just went and looked him up. And I was like, I wonder if it would be funny if I could find one for today. Well, I didn't find one on the 21st. I found one for the 22nd, September 22nd, 2009. I opened it up. It was literally the anniversary of that conversation that I had after I had tried to do this sort of heightened intimacy with him and failed. And it was the conversation that we'd had after. And like I was as I was reading it, which was a trip, because I forgot that like naturally I would have made a page about that. Like, I don't know why, like I certainly wouldn't have remembered the date of it. And then I realized, okay, if I did that on the 22nd and I was like talking like it was the previous day. So it was the day. It was the day. So I read it on the 15-year anniversary that I did that. Then I realized this morning, as I was listening to the third testimony message, that the day that I got too high and God came and was like, we're going to spend the day together. And he said all this stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, that was September the 20th. And I was like, okay, that's pretty close. I was like, what happened the 21st? Okay, well, the next day, because I thought that I was going to go somewhere with him, I didn't. Then the next day I got up at 6 a.m. feeling the Holy Spirit, not knowing that was the Holy Spirit on me. I thought I was still high, which was impossible. Then I basically worshiped that entire morning because I thought something was still going to happen. I was sad when it didn't happen, but I can see why he would do that on the 21st of, what was that, 22? So let me you probably don't understand what I'm saying, and that's fine. I'll probably stop this at an hour. Maybe we'll do an hour a day. Let's keep it an hour a day. So, yeah, I got some stuff to share with y'all. And I know I'm just one person, but, that's why it's cool. Because I can't do this on my own. You see my paltry, 37 views, okay? So, if anything comes of this, it's going to be because God. And yeah, it could be because I'm saying what I'm saying, but I was saying this 4 months ago. I mean, it was truncated, but it was the same thing. And I think it was got 14 views. So we'll see what God is going to do. I don't know. He's shown me a lot. He's shown me a lot. And, I'm not going to lift a finger to make it happen. But I am going to do what he's told me to do. And I feel like today he told me to make a video, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm just going to do what he told me to do. And if anything results from it, then he's God. And he knows what he's talking about. And we're not going to keep relying on, well, God wouldn't, God shouldn't, God couldn't, wouldn't, shouldn't. Like, you don't know him. You never met him. You never saw him. Because if you did, you'd be like me now, which is a fearless bitch. That's what I am now. That's what I am now. He showed me it. He showed, I won't say he showed it all to me. I've said that like fucking 4 times now. And then there's something else. And then it's even bigger. It's even larger. But he showed me what I need to do what I'm doing right now. And yeah, it all started because I kept following him against my better judgment. Because it's not about my better judgment. I follow him. So the better judgment serves you for a while, and then you have to follow him. It's literally the exact same pattern of every single person that you read about in the freaking Bible. They have their better judgment, and then God comes and shatters that, and they decide if they're going to keep going in the direction of that entity, that voice, that person. They didn't have a Bible to tell them who that was. They had to decide if they just liked that guy that kept showing up and telling them, leave your family, go build a boat, whatever. They just had to discern within themselves. Like, go do this impossible thing that I'm telling you to do. I'm going to be with you. They didn't have a Bible that they could go and reference. So it's really kind of genius how he was able to do that with me in the midst of a culture that is inundated with information and commentary and sermons and teachings and this and that. And he was able to take someone like me and say, are you willing to unlearn it all? Which was literally like what was in when I went back and I looked at my old writings. That's what he told me, 9/22/09. Are you ready to unlearn, is what he said. Like, it's the same. He's been doing this with me my entire life, and I did not know. I did not realize it because I wasn't paying attention, and I would never have. Like, I'm never going to conclude that like I'm some super significant person to God, and that is why he had to leave me these proofs, because I was not going to believe that. So, and I believe that's true for every person that's in God. I believe that there is a relationship already waiting for us that is ours. Not mine, not one size fits all. We all just go to God and he's just nice. Everyone has a relationship. You probably already have seen it or know what it is. It's probably the one that you're already longing for. And we say these things, you hear these things in church all the time. And that's part of like the deception that, and we'll get into this like later, but like it's part of the deception is that the devil has it to where he says things. He's not using lies. He's using the exact same words, but it's like it fits over top. It's so that it can fit over top of the truth. So that when I tell you, no, you need to, it's not about, when I tell you it's not about religion, it's about relationship. And you go, yeah. And I say, no, you have to be born again. And you say, yeah. I say, no. You have to follow him. And you go, absolutely. That's the deception. So the way that you break out of the deception, it's literally the Matrix movie, y'all. Like, I know I sound like I'm sorry. This is the deception. That whole movie is him laughing at all of us. There's so many movies like that, by the way. They think we're hilarious. Because they know that we haven't been up to see him. so they can just parade that shit in front of our face. Because if we'd been up to see him, you'd be like me. You'd be a fearless bitch like me, and you're not. You're following rules and saying what God wouldn't do, like you never seen him in your life. They know he's up there. They know like what he gave us and what we should have, and we're not walking around like we haven't. They don't have to like trick us and figure out whatever. All they got to do is just find the clueless Christian walking around in fear. And again, I've heard that sermon. I've heard that sermon. And you think you can get that through just your revelation knowledge. And even as much as I loved God and as much as I tried to, break through to something real with him, he eventually brought me to where I needed to be, but there was no way I was going to get there without this happening. There was no way. It just was never going to happen. So, yeah, I think that's a good intro. It's about at an hour, like I said. Thank you, Lord, for helping me make this video. That's my whatever, because I forgot to pray at the beginning. Whatever, we're done with the rote routine, but still. Old habits die hard. I'm going to let him name this video, so I apologize in advance. I don't know what he's going to name it to get people to watch it. If that's what he's going to do, I don't know, but I'm going to let him name it. And I'll see y'all later.